Hi there. I just wanted to do a quick video just in response to some of the things you all shared in your Flipgrid videos about DAP, Developmentally Appropriate Practices. I'm so glad that there were so many things that I heard over and over, such as relationships and knowing your students, building that trust. And it just so happens, as the day I was listening to those videos, I was also reading this book called The Trust Edge, and this is from one of my graduate classes that I am taking. And although it's written sort of from a business perspective, I think it has a lot of really good connections. And it just was, the chapter I was reading was talking about how it takes a long time to build deep trust, but that the trust starts from the second we meet someone. We decide, are we going to trust them or not? And how deep trust takes a long time to build. However, it only takes one thing to have mistrust and to break that trust. And so that's so true with students. It takes us some time. Another thing that the book connects to are just the pillars that are kind of, he talks about the pillars, and with ruins, the pillars are usually still standing, and these are the things that really the 8 pillars of trust. One of them is clarity. People trust the clear and they mistrust the ambiguous. And I really connected to number 2, compassion. People put faith in those who care beyond themselves, and that's really what you get to show your students. And are you showing that you care, truly care about them? Number 3, character. People notice those who do what is right over what is easy. Competency. People have confidence in those who stay fresh, relevant, and capable. And I think you being a part of this class is an example of you staying fresh in your commitment to what you're doing. Number 5, commitment. People believe in those who stand through adversity. Some of you, as you were sharing, you shared some of those core things that you believe are important about children and those relationships and what they should be doing at each and every day. And so you are showing that commitment. Number 6, connection. People want to follow, buy from, and be around friends. Contribution is number 7. People immediately respond to results. And 8, consistency. People love to see the little things done consistently. And so we as teachers have to do those things where we are consistent day in and day out with our students in those best practices. So that was just my little connection from this book, and just how it takes a long time to build, but yet a very short amount of time for it to break down. Another thing that I heard you all talk about was assessment. And I really think some of you would say, especially that have been teaching for quite a while, that you've seen a huge change in this and how we approach assessment. And that's one of the topics we will talk about later in the semester. And so I'm looking forward to that, just how we approach it and how kids approach assessment. Another one was being culturally appropriate. And Trevor, I really appreciate you sharing just how that was something that you hadn't thought about, and how that is so key. And I think, Grace, you also made some connection to that, understanding the world that your students are living in and they're coming from. And in particular, I was thinking about children's literature. And one thing that I've been really trying to do, one of the speakers that I saw this last spring at the state reading conference, she was just talking about how it's so important to have a mixture of windows and mirrors in the literature that we share. So those windows being, we can look into someone else's world, and that's, I think, where empathy grows, is when we get to expose kids to differences. But then there's also those mirrors where they see themselves in their literature, and I connect with this in my family. And hopefully I'm going to share some of those books with you. I was planning to have them here with this video, but I just remembered that piece just now. So I know I read a book It's called either These Shoes or Those Shoes. And it just talks about a little boy who he just wanted these shoes that everyone's been getting at school. And, his grandma says, we have no room for want. We only have room for need. And it's just a really powerful story. I'll let you read it because there's a lot of power in this story. And there's also a book that I recently read to my students here about, I think it's My House in Our Car. And so I'm sure I did not get that title correct, so I will share that with you all. But it's about a student who's they're living in their car, and just the struggle that she goes through with what that's like and what their life is like every evening, and kind of the routine that they go through and what they have to watch for, and just some of that perspective. And I thought it was really powerful to help students with that empathy piece. And maybe you have students who are in that situation, and that's one of those mirrors for them, is that they can understand that. But maybe for some of your students, it's going to be a good window into someone else's world to think about. And another thing that I thought about was being age appropriate. And Becky, as you were talking, I remember you saying, you've been in this for 12 years, and so you feel like that's something you're really good at. And some of those of you who are maybe just a little bit newer teachers, you're still gaining that grasp, or you've changed grade levels, and so you're still gaining those skills of what is age appropriate with your students. So all of those things being very very important. And some of the other things that you all shared was making your lessons appropriate for every student in your room. And I'm going to get on my soapbox for 1 minute, and nobody tell on me. But this whole business of people saying that in every room, if I walk into your room, I should see the same exact thing as when I walk into somebody else's room. No. I strongly, strongly disagree with that. The students you have in your room are different than the person next to you, and your lessons should show that. And yes, you can be teaching some of the same material, but it might be in a different way because your students are different. And maybe your students aren't ready for that exactly. And so that, so you're going to make your lessons different. Huge, huge thing that I just believe we've lost sight of. And I am not advocating that, that there should be inequality in schools or anything like that. But to be a true teacher is to know what your students need and to do it, and not to just make it look like the person next to you. I'll get off my soapbox now, but that is a huge pet peeve of mine. We are teachers, and we should know our students, and our instruction should fit them and not fit what the district says every classroom has to look like. That's not good teaching. So I really gained from what you all said. Thank you for sharing. I look forward to learning more from you.